It's a lot of countries that you don't see anything good from the news. I had more people come up to me and just say, thank you for visiting my country than any other place I'd ever been.
Exactly.
And in perfect English.
Yeah.
Right? And I was just like, I was blown away by their hospitality, and there's literally rubble everywhere.
Welcome back to the Radio Vagabond and another conversation from the Extraordinary Travel Festival in Bangkok. This conference is a gathering of travelers who've pushed boundaries, taken risks, and seen things most of us only dream about. Over these episodes, you'll hear stories that are inspiring, surprising, and sometimes a bit wild. I'm giving you these conversations every Saturday, and then we have regular episodes on Travel Tuesdays. I got one more from Iceland for you next Tuesday. Today I have two remarkable guests. One has traveled the world, partly thanks to an airline carrier that gives him access to flights most of us could only wish for. The other one has taken an ancient tradition from Galápagos Islands and turned it into a global mission.
I didn't know that this was going to be a theme, a Kiwi theme, but you guys are both from New Zealand, and I didn't even realize that, so it wasn't planned.
They're both from New Zealand, but didn't know each other until they met here at the conference in Thailand.
I've not been in New Zealand for 11 years. So.
And I'm based in London.
Yeah, I'm based in Seattle, so...
Mm-hmm. Why would you leave such a wonderful country? It's too far away from everything?
It's the greatest place in the world to go on holiday. Mm-hmm. But living and working there has got the same issues as anywhere else in the world. Pressures and time and work, and it's expensive as anywhere in the world.
The price of cheese is outrageous these days. You can almost exchange it for currency.
Bitcoin will not have the value of cheese.
I did my first visit to New Zealand just a few years ago, and it was amazing. It was one of those places where I thought, I could really live here, except it's just so far away especially from where I'm from Denmark. But I really liked it, and what I liked the most is that you go on a bus and you instantly start chatting to people. And that happens there, and in South Africa is also one of my favorite places, but not that many places, not even in Australia. You don't strike up a conversation if you're standing in line in the supermarket. You would do that in New Zealand. Am I right?
It's pretty open. I mean, I don't know, you still have the same sort of issues as anywhere else in the world.
Yeah. I think Kiwis are really open to people visiting New Zealand, and even when I first got there, and I still sounded super American because I still had my American accent. Yeah. I still do now because I got it back. I filled up my car with petrol and I was $5 short. Like, yeah, don't worry about it. I was like, what do you mean? Like I was gonna go try to get money somewhere or do something, and they're like, yeah, it's fine, mate. Have a good day.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Right? And I was just like, where else would this happen? I don't know.
Christian Fleischer, born in New Zealand but now settled in Seattle, Washington. Christian didn't start traveling until he was in university, but once he got the taste of the world, he never looked back. Working in the airline industry gave him an incredible travel advantage, and he's as comfortable in a 5-star hotel as he is sleeping in a shack without running water. And earlier in 2024, he officially completed visiting every UN-recognized nation in the world, finishing the list in the Bahamas. Not a bad place to celebrate, right? And then there's the other Kiwi, Jonny Beardmore, who some people know as the Galápagos Postman. Jonny is on a mission to deliver 50 handwritten letters to strangers around the world, all collected from an ancient postbox on a remote island in the Galápagos. This is a tradition dating back to 1793, when sailors left letters in the hope that fellow travelers would pick them up and deliver them by hand. So far, Jonny has hand-delivered letters to a mayor in Clowntown, Texas, a mother in Mexico who couldn't read, and even a 3-year-old fairy while dressed as a pirate in Singapore. And he's doing all this for an incredible cause, raising awareness and funds for the motor neurone disease, MND, a disease that took his father's life in 2022. In this episode, I'll talk to Christian and Jonny about their incredible journeys, the wildest experience they've had on the road, and the challenges of pushing boundaries in travel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Palabo. I'm a full-time traveler, podcaster, and storyteller. The Radio Vagabond is all about immersive travel experiences, and then sometimes I bring you some fascinating conversations with adventurers from all over the world, like this one. Welcome.
Meet Palabo on an epic journey around the world. This is the Radio Vagabond.
Before we start, let me remind you that this episode is supported in part by Hotels25.com. It's a website that helps you find the best deals on hotel rooms, guest houses, and hostels all over the world. Just go to Hotels25.com and make a simple search.
Let's get to know each other. Christian, can you tell Johnny who you are?
Sure. So Christian Fleischer. I've worked in aviation my entire life. My first job was in the U.S. with U.S. Airways at an airline, and that's kind of how I got to.
So what did you do in aviation?
So I started in pricing and revenue management, and that's the department in airlines that sets the fares and decides how many seats to sell at each price, and also does the overbooking, which a lot of people love, but there's actually a science and a method to the madness. So I was doing that in Washington, D.C. for U.S. Airways, and a colleague's friend said he was moving to New Zealand. And similar to you, I had been to New Zealand twice, and I thought, this is where I want to live. So I came back each time to Washington. I was like, how can I get to New Zealand? But I needed the right to live and work there, which I didn't have. So when I found out my colleague's friend was moving there, I was like, I need to meet him. So he was working, he got a job offer with Air New Zealand. That's where he was going. So I had lunch with him before I went. I gave him my CV. I'm like, hey, if something comes up, let me know. And about 3 weeks later, I got a call from the director of revenue management at Air New Zealand and said, can you do an interview? So I interviewed, and I was like, all right, good. Can you come down and meet the team? I was like, absolutely. So it was 4th of July weekend in the U.S., and I just told my boss I was going to visit my family in Las Vegas, and I went to New Zealand instead. Did the interview, had a provisional offer before I left, came back. They made the offer legit with a path to residency. So a work permit was a path to residency. And financially speaking, I should never have made the move. I was in a load of student debt from uni in U.S. I had a load of credit card debt because I was traveling all the time. And my income didn't support my travel habit. And at that time, the Kiwi dollar was half the U.S. dollar. It was 50 cents on the dollar. And all my debt was in USD. So if I talked to anybody financially, they would have said, just don't go. But I was 20-nothing. I was like 26, 27. And I thought, I can't pass up this opportunity. So I moved to Auckland. I didn't know anybody there. And 3.5 years later, I became a citizen by naturalization.
3.5 years.
At that time, it was super
we
easy.
Didn't make it tough enough, did we?
No. But the Australians finally said, cut the crap, because there were a lot of people from Asia coming down to have babies or to get the New Zealand passport, because with reciprocity with Australia, they really wanted to go to Australia, but Australia's immigration was strict. So Australia said to New Zealand, you need to make the rules the same, otherwise we're going to cut off the reciprocity. Yeah. Yeah. So I got in just in time, 3.5 years. Yeah.
Dirty Aussies stiffing us again.
Yeah. So I was there. I was with Air New Zealand for 5 years. There was a change in management. Ultimately, I could have stayed, but I had been looking for another job, which turns out to be aviation consulting, and that's what I've been doing since 2007. So the last 17 years.
Yeah. And how much have you traveled?
In
this community, we would say, what's your country count?
Yeah, I finished. I can't see the air quotes. I finished in February 193. So I'm quote
this year
unquote done. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I wanted to do it before I was 50, but COVID sort of got in the way. So I did it while I was still 50 by just a couple days. But yeah, on my 50th birthday, 51st birthday, I was in the Bahamas with 15 or 16 other people. And Lucy Shu, who's one of the 193 folks, she managed to join, so there was some representation from the travel community. Otherwise, it was friends and family.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
And now you're based in
Seattle, Washington.
In Seattle.
Yeah. From New Zealand, we had a quick stint in 4 years in Edinburgh. And then from Edinburgh, we've been in Seattle for 11 years now.
Yeah. All right.
Hooked yourself a Kiwi girl and then taken her around the world?
It was actually her job that moved us from New Zealand to Europe. So
what does she do?
We were working at the same company, funnily enough, and we actually had the same boss, which was weird for a short period.
You were not her boss, and she was not your boss.
No, she was on the technology side, and I was on the business consulting side. So we didn't work necessarily together, but we ultimately came up to the same boss. And there was somebody based in London who just resigned and left the company in a little bit of a lurch. So she had the exact same job as that guy, and she covered some of his stuff, bouncing around between Jakarta, Bulgaria, and Turkey. And then they were looking for a replacement for that job, and in the end we just said, look, just send us to Europe, we'll pick that job up, or she'll pick that job up. So ultimately that's what happened. She did that for, again, it was meant to be 2 years, we did it for 4 years. And then finally she applied for a green card and got it, so we had to move back to the U.S.
Mm-hmm. We'll dive deep into a lot of that, but first, Johnny, could you tell him who you are?
Jonny Beardmore, originally from New Plymouth in Taranaki, the west coast of North Island. Mm-hmm. Grew up in New Zealand in my formative years. Was one of the half of New Zealand that turned out to have eternal wanderlust and wanted to go out and explore. I left New Zealand after university and working. I was an accountant. I was a bean counter when I arrived
really?
in England on a 2-year working holiday visa in 1998. 26 years later, I'm still based in the UK. I've had a few different careers in that time. While within those first 2 years, I realised I loved travelling. When I arrived in the UK at 25, the UK was the third country I'd ever been to. Wow. And in the subsequent 25 to 26 years, I'm now over 100, sort of thing like that. And so I just loved it, loved the atmosphere, loved travelling, knew I wanted to stay, managed to get sponsored, and worked in still in finance.
Managed to get sponsored?
Yeah, I can't go into the details officially, but over a beer I'll tell you I got sponsored in the finance industry. It was easy enough to do in the UK.
Sponsored to live there or sponsored to travel?
Live.
Yeah.
So I had a visa like that I had to do 4 years. Then I got a right of remain, and then I could apply for a citizenship and ultimately a passport. And
so you had a Schengen passport for a while, but not anymore.
Yeah. By the time I finally cracked being a digital nomad and able to work from anywhere in the world, they bloody well left Europe. So that was a problem. But I found a quirk in the New Zealand passport that allows you to, it's not the 90-day rule in every 180 that applies to the whole of the EU. Applies only by country for New Zealand passport through a quirk of paperwork. Right? So I can go from country to country to country.
There's so many.
I know. And if you don't tell the authorities that you're
you typically don't stay that long.
No, I've done it a few times, and this was only before I found out about this quirk. But when COVID hit, and I worked in freelancing capability with my current company, we don't have an office. I can work from anywhere. Mm-hmm. So I went to France, and I went to New Zealand, and I went to Australia, and went to Spain for a couple of years during COVID before I got back to the UK. And it was
during COVID.
Yeah. Well, down under was the place to be during COVID.
Oh yeah. But once you couldn't get in and out.
Well, I got into New Zealand, and then I got a bit bored because I was working there doing a graveyard shift Canadian transport project, and so I was working 8 at night till 8 in the morning. So after 6 months of that, I'd had enough, and they opened the border with Australia, and the bubble they called it. And so I went to Australia, and in the meantime they shut the bubble, and I couldn't get back into New Zealand. So I spent 8 months in Australia, which was fantastic actually. Australia's amazing. It was a great opportunity to travel around all the states and have a great look, and I spent
At some part you couldn't go from state to state, but...
Well, no, you could. There were rules. And so I was jumping from one state, and I was staying out of trouble, and after I did a couple of weeks there, I could move to the next one, and eventually I got to Western Australia before they shut the border.
Yeah.
And I stayed there for 4 months until I came back.
Yeah. But wouldn't you say that Europe is very much like the Down Unders in terms of the spirit, and we're not that different, like comparing to Japan or
Look, New Zealand and Australia come from British heritage, right?
Yeah.
So there's a huge connection to the United Kingdom. And the United Kingdom has a similar philosophy in many ways to a lot of Western Europe and so on like that. So we're all a pretty friendly bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've, Christian, you've also lived in other countries, Yemen, Bahrain, Fiji. Is that right?
Yeah, it's almost always a consequence of work.
Yeah.
So with the job in Yemen, I was there for 3 weeks at a time, and then I'd go from Sana'a back to Auckland. But it was just easier in the end. Every time you would enter Yemen, you'd have to get a full-page sticker in the passport. So in those 3 weeks, I would enter Yemen the first time on arrival, and then during the next 2 weekends, maybe I would go somewhere in the region, so I'd come back in and need another sticker. So in the end, I just got a residency visa. It was actually pretty straightforward because I knew I was going to be there for almost a year.
Yeah.
And it's just made life a lot easier immigration-wise to get in and out.
But speaking of being a little bit different, was there some surprising things by living in those countries?
Yeah, that's the thing. So Yemen was 2007, so it was before some of the troubles that are going on there now. It was kind of in the sweet spot of there were some problems before and some problems after. But during the time I was there, and I used exclusively my New Zealand passport for that because it was a much better reception with the roadblocks and the immigration officials. You could go in as an American, no problem, but when you're out in the countryside, passing through different checkpoints, the Kiwi passport just always got a smile, and the American one got kind of a lot more questions. So, all my Facebook photos, of which there are 2 Facebook profile photos, are in Yemen. One is me in the full gear with the thube and the head thing and the machine gun.
And machine gun.
Yeah, we'd go out and shoot the AK for fun, just because we could, and that's not something you can do anywhere.
No. But so it was your airline background that got the whole thing kickstarted. Yeah,
more or less. That was for Bahrain and for Fiji. Those were all jobs with the national airlines of those countries. That just the nature of that job required me to be there for a long time.
Does it also mean, because I've heard that from people in the airline industry, that you got this quirk of free tickets?
So yes, I'm not going to say no. I've had free tickets nearly my entire career. Either working with airlines or for airlines. My wife works for Alaska Airlines.
And you're going to do that even after you retire at some point?
That's TBD. That one I don't know yet. That's not up to me at this point unless I go back and work for an airline and retire at a certain amount, but probably not. With the job in Yemen, because it was kind of unsafe, they wanted us to leave the country every weekend. So we had just go see a guy and he'd sign a form and we get a first class ticket to wherever Yemenia flew that we wanted to go to. Yeah. So I exploited that every time I was there. Yeah. In Fiji, I got 2 business class tickets a month to kind of do whatever I wanted with. It just depends on the contract and the job.
And you did a unique 32-day expedition to was the Falklands?
Yeah, so it was in the southern summer. They've got the sailings from Ushuaia down to Antarctica, back and forth from late October until March, something like that. And the season ends late March, and then they take the ships back to Europe, do maintenance, repaint them, and then they send them up to the Arctic for the Arctic summer season. And so this time it was Quark Expeditions. They decided to, rather than reposition it empty with just crew, they decided to sell it as a voyage. So it stopped in Stanley in the Falklands, a couple stops in the Falklands, South Georgia, Tristan da Cunha, Ascension Island, St. Helena, and I always forget one other one, and then ended up in Cape Verde is where it finished.
Yeah. That's amazing. Christian, have you ever heard of a project called the Galápagos Postman?
I saw it over here, but that's the first I've seen it.
That is right there. And when we come back after a short break, we're going to hear all about it.
Oh, okay, great.
As you know, I'm a digital nomad, and what I do when I'm not doing the Radio Vagabond is helping companies and individuals start their podcast and keep them podcasting.
What's the magic behind a story that truly resonates?
And that's what has us so intrigued by Palabo. We have to talk about those radio commercials he won awards for.
Oh, yeah. The 6 National Commercial of the Year awards. That's insane.
Right. To be able to craft a story that compelling, that memorable in such a short amount of time.
It's a completely different beast than podcasting. I mean, you've got, 30 seconds to grab someone's attention, get your message across, and leave them wanting more.
And he did it brilliantly. One of the things that always stands out to me about his work is his use of sound design, to take risks, to use sound in unexpected ways.
Right, when it evokes an emotion, when it makes you feel something.
Precisely, and Pally understands that. He understands the power of sound to transport you, to make you feel like you're part of the story. And that's something he brings to all of his work, whether it's a 30-second commercial or a hour-long podcast.
So it's not just about making things sound clear, it's about making them sound good, right?
Exactly. He creates an experience.
Yeah.
And that's what sets him apart.
It's like he's creating a movie for your ears, right? You're not just listening, you're experiencing.
Creating an immersive experience.
Honestly, I kind of want to start a podcast now.
You should. Sounds like Pally Go might be the guy to talk to.
He might just be the missing piece of the puzzle.
You can see more on my company's website, radioguru.co.uk.
This is the Radio Vagabond podcast.
Johnny, your Galápagos Postman project is so fascinating. Can you tell me about it?
Sure. As of the 1st of March 2024, I've become the Galápagos Postman, and I've taken 50 letters from an ancient postbox on Isla Floriana in the Galápagos. So there's a postbox that's been on this island since 1793. Whalers and sailors used to use it as a unique way to get mail back to their homes if they were away for many years. Mm-hmm. People would know to come there and stick their mail in.
Because they couldn't really send a WhatsApp.
No technical stuff there. And they would collect mail if they were heading in a direction. They would take it and they'd deliver it by hand. So that tradition is still alive today, and it's now tourists that are travelling to the Galápagos that are sticking mail in, and they might take 1 or 2 letters if they find any in their direction. I've taken that to the extreme and taken 50 from around the world, and I'm spending 12 months delivering them by hand.
Awesome.
So you've already knocked on a few doors.
That's right. I just came here from Japan, where I attempted to deliver letter 40. And in a couple of weeks' time, I'm heading to Brisbane to deliver letter 41. And I will hopefully hit 50 by the time I get back to London for the 1st of March 2025.
So when you took the letters, were they just a random stack, or did you go through them and said, yeah, I'm probably going to be in that area?
I went through them. I analysed them all and broke them down into the geographical areas because I wanted to visit all 7 continents while I was doing it. And most of the continents, there wasn't many to choose from, so I just took them all. It was all random. Europe and the US had big pile, so I sort of scattered them out a little bit, tried to get a variety of a region, and then if it came right down to it, then it was like, was it a quirky letter, or was there something funny about it that appealed? So I grabbed a pile, and so it's pretty much random selection.
Is it typically postcards that you can actually read as well?
Yep, they're all postcards.
Okay,
they're all postcards. So I've read them. I read them all. They've all become characters for me. I've been reading them, trying to imagine who's involved with the sending and the recipient before I make the delivery, and then I try to find out what the story is.
Tell me about one of the most funny and unique times you've knocked on a door.
Look, the classic, one of the classics early on was in Belize. So after I'd been through South America, and some of the interactions were a little bit, stunted because of the language challenges. But when I got to Belize, I had a love letter, and all it said was, "Dear Steve, no matter what happens between us, I'll love you forever." And I was like, oh, this is great. But the address was really weird. I couldn't figure it out. It looked incomplete. So I just turned up on San Pedro Island in Belize, not knowing how I was going to find this dude. And I found him inside 24 hours. It wasn't a big hit. It turned out he was quite popular. I asked a few people. I started going to the post box. I started going online, sort of thing. My rule of thumb is not to go online and search until I have a first attempt to deliver at their home.
Right.
But I couldn't find. I didn't know where.
Oh, that's so tempting to just go on and.
Yeah, no. My rule is to try and maintain the tradition, which is not to make any attempt other than the old ways of just going and knocking on the door for that first attempt.
Fantastic.
Then I'll try, if I can't find them, to track them down through other means. And I found some people online, made a phone call, met somebody, went to a bar, and then we found them, and within 24 hours I met the guy. And the next day we had lunch with the girl who sent the letter, and they had broken up in the intervening period. And I was like, no!
And now they're back together.
Well, we then hung out all week. Beer, they were all expats. We were getting beers and having a great time. It was an amazing experience. They just really opened up and brought me into their local community, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
And then a couple of months later, there was an article written that was in the Wall Street Journal on the story.
No.
And the journalist spoke to them and tracked them down, and I gave them the contact details, and they got interviewed by her for the story. And on the day that it came out, I said, "Mate, Steve, you're on the front page of the Wall Street Journal." and he goes, "Guess what? We're back together."
Oh, no.
The whole story was saying how they'd broken up.
Oh, I spoiled that story, didn't I?
Well, subsequently, it's a bit of a rocky relationship, so I think they're back off again. No, I don't know, You would say teenagers, but these guys are in their 60s, retired as expats.
But typically, maybe you go for a beer, or maybe you do something. Are there people that say, thank you, that was funny, boom, close the door?
There's been a few that you get there and you have a chat for half an hour, and it's they're maybe they're an introverted person, or they're not too sure,
puzzled maybe,
and you run out of chat. It's often better when I've had an attempt to deliver to them.
Yeah.
I haven't. I've then left a message, or I've tracked them down, and I've been able to then tell them what I'm doing. So they don't know that I think I'm a complete weirdo, and they go online through I'm sharing everything on Instagram at Big O Adventures, and people have a little look and see that I'm actually legit in the story, and so then it just gives them a chance to calm themselves and have a little think about it, because naturally at the moment everybody's walls are up, their defences up to strangers coming to see them. They're not open as we once were, and so it just takes a little while to warm them. Break down those walls, and if they've already seen a little bit about it, they've got a chance to sort of figure out what they want to say, and often it's then led to, hey, let's have a beer and let's go out for a drink, and or let's catch up in a couple of days' time, sort of thing like that, if I'm still in town.
Yeah, you have a few videos as well. They're all on Instagram.
Yeah, you can see it Instagram, on YouTube, sort of stuff like that. All the links in the bio on my Instagram account will help you find everything.
It's such a brilliant idea, and when I heard it, I thought, oh, damn it, why didn't I come up with that?
Did you come up with this yourself, or was it something that was advertised?
No, I was in the Galápagos on holiday myself in January of 23, and we got taken to the it's literally Post Office Bay on Isla Floriana. It's literally, there's nothing there apart from this one post box, and it's a whiskey barrel. Okay. And literally you get taken there, and I was part of the tour now. And I put a letter into my mum, and I took a couple back to London, and I delivered them just by knocking on the door, and the experience was amazing.
But that's what anybody's supposed to do, right? Like someone can just grab whatever and go. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, but if we did that now, we would be copying him.
No,
so, I want to come up with a unique idea.
I'm not the first person to do it. People have been doing this for years, right? All I did was just go, you know what, I really enjoyed this. I was looking for a big, grand adventure.
Yeah.
So the story behind why I was trying to do it is that my father passed away in October of 2022 from ALS. Okay. And in the 8 years that he had since he got diagnosed in 2014, I couldn't really go off and do any grand trips. So I knew that when he passed, I was going to do something big. Yep. And I was probably going to do it with him as an inspiration to try and raise awareness for that. Mm-hmm. So I was on the lookout for something, right? I was looking for some quirky, and I love journeys that have a purpose to them. And they all have with me, a theme of human connection and people. And so when I saw this letter box and I delivered one and I saw the interaction, I thought, how amazing would it be to just go back and grab a whole pile.
So you went back?
I went back this year on the first thing, specifically to go to the letterbox to grab this pile of letters. And then without knowing where I was going or who I was going to meet, I started on the 1st of March, and I've just been going around the world delivering them all by hand.
Yeah.
Figuring it out as I go.
That's fantastic.
Do you travel full time now?
Well, this year I am.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm traveling. I'm still working. I'm doing all the logistics. I'm trying to do the media to raise awareness and raise money for the charities that I'm supporting. Mm-hmm. And so it's a full-time job in its own right. I'm looking forward to a break when I get back to London next year.
Yeah. I'd like to hear a little bit more about the charity. I got more for you, Christian, but now that you brought it up, tell me about the charity.
So I'm raising awareness for ALS and MMD, motor neurone disease. Depending on what part of the world, they use different terminology. It's ALS is big in the US, MMD around the rest of the world.
What is that disease for people who don't know?
Well, motor neurone is where your body fails you. So your brain is still 100%, but your body fails you. You stop being able to eat. Your breathing gets affected. Your arms and your limbs stop working, and you become trapped in your own body. Yeah. So it's a nasty disease. That Stephen Hawking is the most famous person who had this. You get trapped in your body, but
your brain is still
100%. Yeah. So my dad was the smartest guy in the room, still up until when he died. Yeah. But his body let him go, let him down. So I'm just trying to raise awareness for it because it's underfunded, and I'm also trying to I've got a charity in New Zealand, the MMD Society down there, and also I've partnered with a UK charity because I'm based there. They're my two bases, and I'm trying to raise funds for both of those. But every country that I go to, I'm contacting the local association, and I'm working with them to raise awareness through the media in that country, and hopefully raise a little bit of money and awareness through each place I pass. Yeah.
The Radio Vagabond. Gotta keep moving.
The letter 40 that I just tried to deliver outside of Nagoya in Japan, the address was incomplete. Oh. And so we went to the police, we went to the newspapers, and we put a story in the newspapers, hopefully that'll get published, trying to find this guy and post it on social media.
Any luck? Or?
Well, we think we might have found him. We're not sure.
Do you have to go back?
No, unfortunately this one I've left it with my local chap there. He's going to take care of it, but we're waiting to see what happens. I went to Beijing to deliver a letter, and I flew out of Hong Kong to Beijing, went and knocked on the door, and they'd left. And I tracked her down through social media, and she was in Hong Kong. So I'm going back through Hong Kong after next weekend on the way to Australia, and I've got 7 hours, so I'm back into Hong Kong for a beer and to hand over the letter. So my first redirection.
That's really commitment. But the one in Japan, if that doesn't work out,
well,
then
there was two others that I delivered. Every other one, the Tokyo one, the Japan was the only one I didn't deliver it to the address because I couldn't find it.
Yeah. Okay.
Every other one I've been to the address. But two of them, I don't know what happened. I just left it there, and they never responded. So they're the two that nagged me.
Maybe they moved her.
And so there's a couple, but the vast majority, I've tracked the people down, and I've met them all, and I've met the people who sent the letter, and I've got some amazing stories. Nice. It's unbelievable.
Awesome.
Yeah. You never had a project?
I can't follow that. Are you kidding me? No, nothing like that. I mean, as terrible as I've gotten is we'd take suitcases of school supplies to Belize. We were in earlier this year and took a suitcase of just pens, pencils, girl items that some men are like embarrassed to buy and purchase, and I have no issues with that because it's biology and girls need stuff too, right? But other just things like that. If there's a need and someone contacts me, I'm happy to help out. But I haven't done anything specific like that.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk a little bit about travel styles. Christian, I know that you both do a bit of luxury, but also roughing it sometimes.
Yeah, so I grew up as an average kid in Pennsylvania in the U.S., not wealthy, not poor, just kind of normal, on a dirt road in a small house. So I wasn't accustomed to any of the finer things in life. I also didn't really want for anything. I had all the basics that we needed. As I've gone through life, though, I mean, for a good 10 or 12 years, I was in business class in 5-star hotels, and that became sort of standard and almost expected. And I would purposefully once a year or twice a year go somewhere that was poor and hard and difficult, just to make sure that I wasn't getting out of touch, and that I wasn't expecting too much. So I'm happy to stay in a luxury hotel. Usually, when someone else pays for it, I'm most happy.
Yeah.
Yes, but and I never intended to do the 193 countries probably until, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And to do that, you have to go to some countries that don't have a lot of good infrastructure and don't have aircon or reliable electricity. And some of my top 5 worst hotels are, hotels that sometimes it's just like a mat outside or on top of a mud roof. And you know what? It's a good sleep. It's not that bad. So I think I said to you, I'm equally comfortable in a 5-star hotel or sleeping on a mat outside. And I like to camp, so I grew up camping as well. I think that helps, because if you can just pretend you're camping inside a dumpy hotel, then your standards go way down and you don't get too worked up over things. But
you ever do dorm rooms in hostels?
No, I've never done hostels since I was out of uni.
I did my first hostel at the age of 51.
Okay.
And I thought, when I started traveling, I'm too old for that. But if I do, I'll get a private room. But now I do it, especially if it's just a few nights. Then it's okay. If I got a longer stay, I kind of like my own privacy.
Yeah.
But I was just in Japan where I stayed at a capsule hotel, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And highly recommended.
Yeah. I was kind of beholden to, at one time, the Starwood program, which is now the Marriott program.
Yeah.
And once I became Lifetime Titanium Elite, the program kind of became dead to me. And I was like able to step outside of those hotels and just stay at independent hotels or 3-star hotels. There's some really great 3-star hotels with some really nice people. I had a great experience in Mauritius during a typhoon where they just wouldn't let us out and they fed us. And I don't know if that would have happened if I was at the Sheraton or the Marriott.
Yeah. What's your travel style?
I don't mind 5-star, but I don't really do 5-star. My hotels I've never really got accustomed to. You know, I'll stay in them, but I find them impersonal. So I like actually staying.
And they're the same all over.
I find I don't actually interact with anybody when I'm in a hotel. Everybody stays in their rooms because I solo travel most of the time. I'm not with a partner, which is a different sort of setup. Yeah. So I like Airbnbs or B&Bs, you know, smaller places where really for me it's a bed. And on this trip, it's a bed with a desk and a good Wi-Fi connection. That's the change I've had to make.
Whenever I search an Airbnb, I click off filter Wi-Fi, but it's almost always there. And if possible, a kitchen, and if possible, a washing machine, and a dedicated workspace. I gotta have the dedicated workspace.
That's the shift for me this year. This is the first time I've gone off on a challenge while still trying to maintain work at the same time. I've always separated them between the two, and so that's the difference I've had to make in terms of where I'm looking and staying. So I'll just go for the best budget, you know, to keep the costs down, really. But I'm not. I would say it's kind of almost flash packer is a term now, where it's like you're a little bit above the sort of the hostels. I've stayed in them from time to time, but they're bloody expensive now. They're no cheaper than I can get a cheaper place on Booking.com than a hostel in a lot of places. So I just look around. I've got all the portals. I look at all the different ways to get the best deal, the right location, and I'll try and find some space that fits.
I just booked 2.5 months at a co-living space in Chiang Mai that comes with a co-working space. I got my own apartment, not with a kitchen though, but a bed and a bathroom and a good desk where I can work. But there's also got a co-work space, and then they do a lot of meetups and let's go bowling and let's have this guy come talk. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Thailand is pretty well set up for a lot of that sort of stuff.
Cheap, especially Chiang Mai.
Yeah, I know a lot of digital nomads that have had their start in this neck of the woods. Asia's quite good value for money.
Yeah.
Make sure to listen to the entire episode because we have breaking news in the end of it. something that happened with the Galápagos Postman project since we recorded this in November, and you'll be the first to hear it if you stick around to the end. When we come back after a quick break, Jonny and Christian will share which places on the planet they feel are the most underrated, and you're in for a surprise when the program continues. Stick around.
You can follow Palabo on his Facebook page. Join the conversation about traveling and being a digital nomad. You can also see pictures, videos, and stories that don't necessarily make it into the podcast. Simply search for the Radio Vagabond.
He's a radio vagabond, always grooving, stories worldwide. The mic keeps proving, from the mountains high to the ocean soothing. Life's an adventure, gotta keep moving.
Let's finish off with some random questions for both of you. Is there one place that you've visited that was kind of underrated and you think that everyone should visit at least once, even though they might not even think about it?
I had this answer for you a couple days ago, so I'm gonna let you go first while I remember what country it was. Frankly,
I guess people ask me about, what's your
I hate
favorite.
the question, what's your favorite country, what's your least favorite country?
There was a question asked earlier today about what countries had the biggest impact on you. I thought that was actually a better one, because the one that's left a sweet spot in my heart is Afghanistan. So I've been there twice, and quite unique experiences, but both were amazing, and they have a special place in my heart as a result of it. And so I always keep an eye out. What's happened recently with a change in management is a little depressing, but the country itself and the people are amazing. And so I would, I'd put aside the fact that perhaps the Taliban are running it a different way, and to the huge disadvantage of females.
Yeah. Oh my God, they're not even allowed to talk now.
But the country still needs income, understanding of the world, and its beauty, and the people are amazing. So I would.
I'm sure a lot of people listening are thinking, is it safe?
Yep. Yeah, look, actually, I think some of the benefits of the Taliban rule is that they've actually cracked down a lot. Corruption, insurgencies and things like that are less likely to happen now. Lots of tourism going in there, both solo female, solo male going through there. If you look at every passport stamp, there's huge write-ups and stories and advice to be found online, and I wouldn't let that stop you from going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's a lot of countries that you don't see anything good from the news that have that kind of reputation, because once you do go there, I went to Syria last year, and
me too.
It's fabulous. I mean, it's amazing. Devastating to see what's happened there. Yeah. That aside, which is a big thing aside, but that aside, I had more people come up to me and just say, thank you for visiting my country than any other place I'd ever been.
Exactly.
And in perfect English.
Yeah.
Right. And I was just like, I was blown away by their hospitality, and there's literally rubble everywhere. Yeah. And they're still eking out a living. They still have a smile on their face, and they're still happy enough to come up to me and say.
I noticed that especially in Aleppo, where there's a lot of rubble, but it was like they were looking at us and thank you. It was like, okay, we're returning to some kind of normalcy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so friendly.
I would add Yemen as well, just because I think I was fortunate to be able to see not the entire country, but let's say 80% of it through the time that I spent there with local people always. And I never once felt unsafe. The hospitality there was also amazing. And it's an underrated place from the standpoint of the history that's there is incredible. The architecture is unique, and just the way of life is quite different. Yeah. And to be able to experience that I was lucky.
I agree.
So Socotra, is it?
Socotra I went to a couple of years ago. Yeah, when I was working with the airline in Yemen, we had a transportation minister who wanted us to cancel some flight so that he could fly his buddies down to Socotra, and my job was to say no to that. So I said no to the minister, and the minister works for the president of the country, and the president of the country, his daughter is the CEO of the airline. So in the end, I would generally lose. Yeah. But at least I put forward what financially makes sense and what doesn't, and then they can make their own decisions.
So underrated could also mean a place that's that could be the next big thing that's not overrun by tourists. And for that one, let me start. I'll say Albania. It blew me away when I was there, and it's got everything that Croatia has.
Half the price.
Eastern European countries there's an odd one that is still the cheap spot of like 20 years ago. Moldova, it's great. Transnistria was fun. We were getting taxis around Moldova because it was that cheap. And the taxi driver did our paperwork at the Transnistria border for us.
And
me too.
And you crossed and
came back and met us. And
you got the plastic money.
It was great. So. There, I drove across Asia in 2013, and my favourite location.
You self-drove?
I self-drove from London to Malaysia and back to London again over 9.5 months. And my favourite countries were, the Stans are amazing, but Afghanistan, Pakistan and Iran, this axis of evil were the most amazing places. The friendliness. They, like you say with Yemen, they say, or Syria, thanks for coming. We want to show you the positive side, not against the negativity of the media.
If you meet big travelers and ask where are the friendliest people, almost everyone will say Iran. Would you agree on that? Or you got this soft spot for?
I spent a month in Iran because my car broke down. I couldn't leave, and they were super friendly. There's the regime that governs the place, and then there's the people, and they're two very different groups.
Yeah,
I might add the way you asked the last question. I might add Guyana to that because it's a.
I so agree.
Developing nation, but they have the biggest oil find in the last, 20 years or something. Yeah. And if they manage it well, and let's not look at next door at Venezuela, but let's look, UAE or somewhere else. They have the potential to completely transform that country. And there's not many people there, and their natural treasures are fantastic. So if they can try to figure out how to make Georgetown a little nicer, and get some more infrastructure into the hinterland without destroying it. I think that's
all of a sudden Venezuela says, hey, wait a minute, that used to be Venezuela. Wait a minute. Finally, a bit of a philosophical question. Is there a universal truth that you've discovered about people no matter where you are in the world?
Yeah, I think politics are different than people. I mean, you saw what happened in my country in the last 4 years and recently again, and we'll see what happens in the next 4 years. And to me, different countries at the political level don't get along or disagree or have their differences. But when you as human to human go and talk to people, nearly all the time, that just disappears. Nearly all the time. And that politics is not important.
I would second that. We're all humans, we're all the same. Basically, we just want to hang out with our mates, have a few beers. We don't want any stress. We want to spend time with our families. And that is everywhere I've been, the same thing. It's only the management that causes some friction. And I'm cognizant that we also impact that because we drive those guys. But generally, on an individual level, we're all the same.
Yeah. And I see that especially in children, there are exactly the same goofy all over the world, and they are just the same. Yeah, and generally people want to do nice and be nice.
Well, they're all everywhere I go. The hospitality and the kindness is the same.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming. This was really a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And we're done.
Good evening. My name is Bond.
Radio Vagabond.
Yeah, that was my conversation with Jonny and Christian. But a few days ago, I spoke to Jonny about his Galápagos Postman project. And I feel that this episode wouldn't be complete without that. So I asked him to jump on a quick call with me. I'm still in Thailand, and Jonny was in Kenya when I caught him this week. Jonny, I just had to bring you back on because something exciting is happening. You're getting close to the end.
Yes, Pele, I'm 1 month from finishing. I'm getting pretty excited. It's going to be a huge finish.
how close are you? How many letters out of the 50 do you still need to deliver?
I am still in North Africa to go. I've got to Morocco. I've got 2 letters to deliver there. And then on the 11th of February, I begin what is the final stage of this 1-year adventure with a specific... this is breaking news. I haven't spoken to too many people about this outside of my team. But I've
cool.
Just because I want an even bigger challenge than what I've already had, I'm going to do a race across the world-esque adventure to deliver the last half a dozen letters, and it's going to be like post-haste across Europe, starring the Galápagos Postman. It's like race across Europe in the last 17 days of this adventure to deliver the last 6 letters while doing crazy challenges by route and destination that people that are following can vote and influence on social media.
So you called it post-haste. It's not post-restant, it's post-haste.
That's right. I'm in a hurry to finish. I'm going, and it all comes to finish in London on the finish line, and we've got a big charity fundraiser.
Yeah, we'll get to that, but let me just those half a dozen letters. Where are they?
Sure. So on the 11th of February, I am flying from Casablanca to Bergen in Norway. That's letter T-6. Then I go to Copenhagen, and I've got a letter just outside of Copenhagen in Denmark.
Where exactly? As a Dane, I would like to know where exactly.
I'm not very good at pronouncing this. I'm going to murder it. It's Heilbæk.
Holbæk.
It's spelt, bear with me a second. Humlebaek.
Oh, so Humlebaek. And by the way, that is Zealand, not New Zealand, where you come from.
Well, that's why I'm excited about going there, because the history of the Vikings and Zealand and New Zealand, it's going to potentially influence what I do in Copenhagen for the delivery.
Yeah, well, it's actually a little bit debatable where you guys got the name New Zealand from. Some say it's part of the Netherlands, and some say it's because of the island in Denmark called Zealand. But no, we're getting off track here.
I'm not going to be too fussed about that. It's got a reference that relates to me in New Zealand, so I'm using it.
Right. So after Denmark,
then I'm off to Hamburg in Germany, followed by Zurich in Switzerland, Bordeaux in France.
Cool.
And then the finish line is London in the United Kingdom.
Okay. And then what kind of event are you saying you're doing to celebrate the whole thing?
So on Saturday, the 1st of March, I am hosting a finish line charity fundraiser to celebrate the end of 1 year on the road from the 1st of March 2024. Celebrate hopefully the delivery of 55 letters, not 50, which was the original target. I pushed the boat out. I've gone for even more.
Where'd you get the last 5 from?
No, I had a few extras, but I just didn't think that I was going to have a chance to deliver them. But my amazing logistical planning has meant that I've got some extra time, and I've managed to get some more in there. And I thought, hey, this would be a great way to finish. So the charity fundraiser, anybody in London, welcome to come down. Tickets are online at the moment, and hopefully we're going to. It's going to be a great night, actually. I've got a few people from around the world that have been involved in the letter deliveries that are going to be flying in for the party. So anybody who's there is going to get to meet some of the people that I met this year.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course I will put the link in the episode description and on the radiovagabond.com on the link to how, if you are around London and you want to join this fundraiser. Yep. Because this challenge has been more about just delivering letters, as we talked on when we met in Bangkok. It's also about raising awareness for MND and $100,000 New Zealand dollars.
Yes, yeah, the charities that I'm supporting are Motor Neurone and ALS charities from the Ice Bucket Challenge that people will be aware of. My father passed away from that, so I'm spending this year, creating human connections, highlighting the loss of mobility and communication that an MND sufferer suffers from, which is so fundamental to our lives, partly about how we travel and how we communicate. So I'm raising awareness for that. I'd try to target 100,000 New Zealand dollars raising. We've got a little way to go, but I'm hoping for a big finish.
Yeah. And your father struggled with this for 8 years until he passed away in 22. How does when you have this disease, how does it influence your life?
Well, your body shuts down on you. Your brain is still 100%. You're still the same person you are inside, but your body lets you down, and it can start with your throat and your lungs so that you can't speak, and then your neurons in your body that send transmitters to move your body stop working, and your body fails you, and so you become trapped in your own body. So it is a very cruel and nasty disease, but what people don't realize is that the same person that we know and love is still inside there with the same personality and the same humor, and they just still want to be treated normally, and they lose that human connection because people drift away. And, I've been trying to bring everybody back by this, delivering these letters and creating human connections all around the world.
Right. And it goes to research, or what does it go to?
I'm funding money into charity into New Zealand, Motor Neurone charity there, and they will disperse that. They do care and research and facilities. And I'm also supporting a UK charity called Stand Against MMD here in the UK, which is the focus there is a guy who has it, is set up his charity is for investing into research and the new doctors coming up to inspire them to work on this field.
Yeah, cheers for doing that. That's really important work, but also a massive project that's coming to an end. What's next? Do you have another project in the pipeline?
Oh no, mate! I'll be dealing with a hangover on the 2nd of March, and then I'll be having a long nap. I'm tired. I was weary. I'm looking forward to finishing. As excited as I am about this, what I've been doing and traveling and meeting people, I'm also kind of looking forward to finishing and completing it, and then having a bit of a rest, and then there's lots of stuff to be done after a project like this in terms of sharing the story more, and things like books and films and so on like that I've got to consider once I've finished.
Yeah. Has there been a point since you grabbed those letters in Galápagos that you've thought, oh, I shouldn't have done that?
Nope. Great decision. Best idea I've ever come up with for meeting people and traveling the world. Absolutely, hands down, greatest way to meet new people and have them open their world up to me without the normal resistance that you have from a stranger, because of a piece of paper with a little bit of handwriting on it. It's great.
Amazing, Jonny, and I'm sorry I can't be with you. I'll be on the ship very close to where you are right now in Africa, so I can't be in London for that, but I'm sure we'll meet again somewhere in the world, and can't wait to hear about the finish.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much for chatting and sharing the story.
And that's it for this episode. Next Tuesday, we're back with the 4th and last regular episode from wonderful Iceland. And next Saturday, another cool conversation with some amazing travelers. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit follow or subscribe and join me for more travel inspiration. My name is Palabo, and I gotta keep moving. See ya.
Radio Vagabond. Produced by RadioGuru.co.uk.